Tom Cummings and Michaela Hurley live at 5 from the Dick Keefe studio at our beautiful senior high school. And it is so beautiful. And you know what? It's staying that way. You know how buildings are over the years? They get marked up all over the place. Hasn't happened up here. That's great. That's great. Your comments, 781-769-1478. Patriots Tom at Verizon.net. Once again, David Ajar and Tony Mazzugo have joined Michaela and I. We had back-to-back shows because we missed a lot of the topics last week because we gave you a lot of good information, and we want to continue on and give you good information. Our sponsor, J.C. Jacobs Plumbing and Heating, 1156 Washington Street, 781-762-8381. And by the way, they did my kitchen over about 25 years ago, and my bathroom back-to-back. It's just as good as it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And if you doubt me, come down and have a beer, okay? I'll show you what a great job the Jacobs did of mine. Now, I guess, David, I'm going to turn to you first. The vaccine, is everybody's going crazy.
Is there someone else you want to plug before we get into some of the serious stuff? I mean, no.
Yeah.
Are you okay with Jacobs in your kitchen and your bathroom?
Absolutely
right?
perfect.
Okay, good, great.
It's amazing.
Anybody else you want to plug? I mean, who's your...
Oh, yeah, well, okay, yeah, we can do that right now. Yeah,
okay,
Supercuts. Hey, have a look. I'm serious. How's the shirt? The cleaners right near the town hall. You gotta.
Luster Cleaners.
We'll get into hopefully the stores that are empty, but
Tom, I gotta ask you,
got to support these people.
Are you gonna do your kitchen again? It sounds like it's time for another kitchen remodel.
Yeah.
I think it's time you get your kitchen done again.
Yeah. But believe me, I go to Supercuts. I'll be going next week before my trip, and they're great. And every time I go to visit somebody now, go to Stop and Shop, and all that, I ask them how they're doing. Things are picking up. Hallelujah! That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. But anyways, David.
So vaccinations. I think as we tried to get into that conversation last meeting, vaccinations have been taken over basically by the state. So if you have to go online, schedule your own appointment, and do it that way. The town does not provide any vaccinations anymore. The state's trying to do it in bulk and get a lot of people done. And so they've set up places like Fenway Park, Gillette Stadium, and others around the state for people to go to after they make their appointment.
So somebody, supposing, can somebody call the town hall? The town hall?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So what happens if, there's a lot of people out there.
Tom, if I could just be good. Not anymore because of Governor Baker's decision that towns not be allowed to do it, not by any choice on our part. We're not happy with that decision by the governor, and we think it was a poor decision. It's put a lot of our elderly at risk. A lot of them, it's complicated to go to Gillette. It's complicated to sign up. They don't want to go to Gillette. He's made it really difficult for a lot of the elderly and people with transportation and mobility issues in town. And not just Norwood, all 351 towns in the Commonwealth. Okay.
So what does one do that's a senior? What happens to a senior that's alone? I mean, I'm quite capable of doing basically what I want to do, but I'm more fortunate than a lot of people. What do they do? Somebody's senior, alone, maybe have a relative come over, need some help.
You can either log on to the state's website and try to register through there, or you can call 211, which is a statewide information system, and they'll try to get you assistance that way. The senior center will try to help you get an appointment, but it's challenging because we effectively become a third party in the middle of it.
Right.
And it's difficult for us to intervene and try to get you help with registering an appointment. You can call Carrie at the senior center. She will do her best to help you, but it's going to be at Gillette or Fenway or one of these other sites.
Okay.
So the state's made it really tough for our elderly in town.
Yeah, we're getting the shots, though. We're getting better. It's getting better. It's going to turn. It's going to turn big time. You'll see it. I'll guarantee you that. It's you're going to see the papers now saying, hey, now we're going on the other side of the mountain, and this is great for the country. It really is great for all of us, Tony, I just want to mention, your street paving. I was curious about the end of Washington Street going towards Walpole, you know, a little hill there. You're gonna, at some point, you're gonna do that? Is that?
I'd have to see where it is on the list. I had the list the last time we talked, but between what we have in the budget plus money from the override, plus we borrowed some money, we're doing more road paving this year than we've done in probably 10 years, and that will likely continue for the next couple of years.
10 years, you say about, yeah? Yeah.
We'll, so if you, from the start of this calendar year, we'll start our money from borrowing this spring. Last spring, so still within the fiscal year, we did our budget allocation. So that between last spring and this spring, about a little over $4 million in road paving. We have not done that much road paving in many, many, many years. Even though the costs have gone up, we haven't done that much square footage in many, many, many years, if not ever.
Could you make a, just throw something out at both of you, could you make a bargain with one of these companies and say, hey, we'll give you a 10-year deal if you give us a little break or something like that?
So two of the things
two
of the things that we've done that are actually going to help the price we get. The more work you do, the price does get cheaper. So it's easier for a contractor to know that they're going to get set up and they're going to do all of this road work rather than just a little bit here and a little bit here. So that saves you a little bit in the price. And we've moved our capital appropriations to the fall, mainly to deal with COVID, and we're looking to do that a little bit more often so that we'll be able to actually get our bids out in the winter and be sort of first in line for a contractor. Whereas instead, we're sort of waiting until town meeting comes in May, town meeting passes in May, and then we're trying to get something out for the following fiscal year in July. We're at the end of the contractor's list as opposed to being at the beginning, and you always want to sort of be that first one in there so you're not just an afterthought.
And you know, this is going to be great for Mark Lyon and his crew and his staff. It's going to make it a lot easier for them as you get into it, really, you know.
Absolutely.
When do you think you say what, 10 years, Tony, about 10 years it will take you to really get a handle on it?
No, so if we continue to do a borrowing each year like we've done, about 5 or 6 years, the paving will be in really good shape. And then what we have in the operating budget can likely continue to maintain that. And then what we would do is we have a certain number of dollars built in the budget for that debt service, so that borrowing to do some extra roads. That'll peak in about 6 years, assuming we go forward with it. We decided we're going to vote on it each year to continue going. That'll peak, and then as that drops off, and it gets, you know, like your mortgage, a little bit less, a little bit less each year, that savings we'll put into the paving budget, so that way eventually we'll be able to maintain what we debt. We can get over a little bit of a hill with it over the next 4 or 5 years. We're going to be in a really, really good shape.
Great. So as a manager, one of your top priorities is the streets.
Absolutely.
Glad to see you got hired, pal. I really am. I've
Absolutely.
Talked about
It's
this
the
long
streets
before
and
you
what
come on here,
it's the
believe
streets
me.
and what goes on underneath the streets. So
Yeah.
I know you have it on your list about the flooding and what are we doing about it. I mean, this is part of a whole plan, and you know, we heard back from a lot of people, residents, during different times saying that, you know, my streets aren't getting done, we're not doing enough, where's our priority, where's our future planning. I think Tony's team has done a good job, made some recommendations to the board with regards to, hey, if we want to get ahead instead of always being behind, let's look at a 7-year plan for the roads. Let's look at a 20-year plan for water and sewer. But it's the right thing to do, because we get into the habit of saying, well, that's too expensive, and we shelve it, not intentionally to leave it on the shelf, but no one then picks it up 2 years later and say, well, it's time to do that. And when we get to the flooding issues, that was a really prime example of something that was looked at back in 2005 very seriously, and unfortunately got put on the shelf as that's going to be too expensive to do. But it's pay me now, pay me later. At some point, all this stuff has to get done. So we need to program these things out a number of years so that we can afford them, but be in a position that we can see light at the end of the tunnel with regards to a lot of the infrastructure work that has been unfortunately delayed through no specific fault of anyone. But you have to bring this stuff back up if you're not doing it in the year that you bring it forward.
And
I think it's great. I tell you, people are very happy.
It's very good.
They really are. Good. And you'll see more comments as you guys move forward and get more streets done, you know?
Especially this spring, we're going to get a lot of road work done. And then next spring, if we go forward with it, next spring, you're going to see the whole town torn up. I mean, we're doing about 18,000 feet of water relining this year.
Yeah.
Last year it was 1,800. I mean, by a huge magnitude, we're investing in our infrastructure. And the time to do it is now. You know, it's a good time in Norwood. It's always been a good time in Norwood since 1872. But right now, the economy is strong. We know there's some COVID headwinds, but the economy is strong. Property values, as everyone knows, are going through the roof. They're increasing every year. Employment is good. Businesses are coming to town. In the short term, we know we've lost the hospital, and that takes a hit, but we've recruited Moderna. They are going like gangbusters. The building department is having its busiest year in 30 years. And I said that last year because last year was the busiest year in 30 years, and the year before. They are not slowing down. The number of large projects going on in town, it's all a sign that the economy is strong, that the growth is there. Now is the time to do it. I think it was JFK who said the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. And I always think the sun will always be shining on Norwood, but now's the time to do it and to make these investments.
Yeah.
The neighborhood that we're doing a lot of the water work in, that neighborhood got a lot of their gas work done recently. Now they're getting a lot of the water work done. In a year or two, that's going to get followed up with the road work. So we're following a plan where the gas companies have invested in the gas infrastructure. We then want to follow it up with water infrastructure and then road infrastructure. And sometimes the water will be good and it's not going to get done for a while and we're going to have to pave it and we'll come back to it. But we want to do these things. And I'll give you an example of towns that are not always following up on it. I grew up in Randolph. It's my hometown. I was driving to it recently with some friends, and I took them to the neighborhood I grew up in. My grandparents bought their house in Randolph in 1968. That road has not been done yet. So it's over 50 years that road has not been repaved yet. It's just been patched, and it's in terrible shape. And how do you recover from something like that? Same thing with they have a lot of water issues because they didn't invest in their infrastructure. So you got to do it because, as David said, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later, and the cost is only worse later. You might as well bite the bullet and fix the infrastructure now.
Who's the company that looks underneath, to look at the drains underneath? Is that Jim Lester?
No, that's
Thorndike.
It's not headed up by Jim?
No.
Really? No. Okay, I thought it was. I know when John Cal was here.
So remember, any of our water projects, our road projects, or sewer or stormwater projects, they always go out to bid. So sometimes the engineers and the firms are different. Well, sometimes you'll see one firm gets to know a town and they might win a bid sometimes 4 or 5 years in a row. I mean, we had a great contractor for roads for 4 or 5 years in a row. Somebody else happened to win the bid and they turned out to be a good contractor as well.
Yeah. Well, I know this person was there. The only reason why I mentioned it, he happened to be my nephew. Okay, I thought he was still doing it. Okay, Norwood Hospital. Any update? Norwood Hospital. Anything new? Anything happening at all? Any piece of information? That's small.
They've told us they're going to make some kind of an announcement in April or May.
April or
May. That's what we're waiting for. We're hoping that announcement is they're moving forward with a brand new building and they're going to continue. I think I had said before, they're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place with their insurance company. Rebuilding hospital is $250 million. I don't think their insurance company's initial offer was anywhere near that, so they're having to fight it out with their insurance company, just like you or I would. I happened to be on a call the other day with our insurance company looking at our coverages for the town, and as an example, a brand new high school in Massachusetts could be $250 million. So if, God forbid, a tornado came through and blew out the high school and we needed to get a new high school, if the insurance company tried to say, well, we think it's only worth $40 or $50 million, I'd be saying, absolutely not. I have a $232 million limit on that policy. I want $232 million down to the penny. And they might turn around and say, well, no, we don't think a new high school would necessarily cost that. And I would say, the heck with it. We need a new studio. We probably need a Tom Cummings wing. We would want to get the best bang for our...
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
So anyway, that's the situation the hospital's in, and it's tough. We don't have the emergency room. We don't have the jobs. If you talk to some of the businesses in the area that hospital employees frequented, they're feeling the pain from it. So we want it back as soon as possible. We still think that Stewart's going to stay here and that it's going to be a brand new facility, which will be great when we're there. It's just dealing with 2 years of pain while we're getting there.
Yeah. Anything else on that?
Well, I was just going to say it's us and the 22 other surrounding towns that utilized Norwood Hospital. So we know people with respect to its use are hurting because it takes everybody longer to get to a different hospital. It puts a stress on all the fire departments, not just ours. For us, it was actually very easy. No matter where you were in town, you're a mile away from the hospital. For other towns, it's a long drive, and now for them, it's even longer that they have to go from Attleboro. Maybe they got to go now all the way into Brockton or over to Needham or Newton Wellesley. It's tough. So we understand it. We know. We get the questions all the time, rightfully so, but it's not in our control to speed up anything. What we did at town meeting was try to pave the way for them to know that the town supports them, by passing a bylaw that allows them to build the type of hospital that they say they want to build. So it's not something that they have to come back and say, oh, yeah, can you do this, can you do that? We heard them up front. People have been meeting with them. They got feedback, and they incorporated what they wanted in the overlay, the medical overlay district. It got passed overwhelmingly at town meeting. So we're ready. We're ready. And they know that. So,
okay. You know, we're all politicians at some time. And I would think, I would think that Norwood Hospital executives, the leaders, you know, they could come out with something small piece of information that kind of makes people like myself feel, ooh, you know, no big deal. They're going to do it anyways. So why not go before the board with a deal with the 5 board of selectmen that you won't, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I've seen that before. Before you come aboard, Tony, they were going to innovate and we'll do whatever. And I'll tell you, it was a disaster. It really was. They were not ready. You know, I remember that night. I said, oh, my God, wow. And, you know, you take the leader, the president, and he's been on this show, and he's excellent before people and everything. And just give us a little piece of cheese, if you will, the old saying. You know, that's how I feel about it. Anyways, coming into the town, I just suggest that you guys have a look at it and make sure that we have signs, appropriate signs coming in. Make them a little different, if you will. You know, just not welcome to Norwood. Hey, you're coming into the great town of Norwood, Massachusetts. Something like that, just to make us look good. You're going to do the streets, keep going. Doesn't cost a lot of money to put a sign up. And I suggest you just have a look at it. Any comment?
Yeah, I think gateway signs into a community are always great. I wouldn't say they don't cost any money. A good quality sign is probably $5,000 or $6,000, if not more. You know, we're not talking about just printing something at the home and taping it on it. But yeah, I agree with you that gateway signs are a...
no, if it's appropriate, that's all.
Yeah, they're a great idea. You know, there's a great one as you kind of get into downtown. If you're coming off sort of 1A or coming down from the ward, that's a really great one, right, sort of welcome to the center. It's a tough balance between you want people to know they've come into Norwood, but you don't necessarily want to do it where it's like, okay, we're in Norwood and what's here? Okay, well, there's nothing really here. Let's wait till we get into town. So we've done a little bit of signage as you get closer to downtown, but I think gateway signs are a great idea. I know we're looking at some kiosk signs in the downtown and probably in South Norwood, where there's sort of an electronic keyboard, an electronic sign where it'll have sort of information, tourist information and restaurant information, bus schedules and stuff like that. There's a company that does these solar signs that they're now using in a bunch of cities and towns in Massachusetts. So you don't need any electrical information underground. You just basically plug the sign in. It's powered solar, and it'll have some information. And you can even have, so you'd be able to go to a sign near the common and look at it, see the bus schedule, see there's probably some ads on it, and that's probably how they help pay for it. And then you might be able to see restaurants in the area and stuff like that. So I know we're looking on that as well to do a little bit more branding and branding and signage.
David?
No, I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, we know that some organizations in town, when they go to change their signs, will ask if wording is certainly okay on it, and we'll ask them to put "Welcome to Norwood" as part of their signage. So, I mean, it works. It does work.
Yeah, you know, just had another thought here. I'm always thinking, of course, is that you said it costs a lot of dollars. I'm sure it does for signs and all that. But I don't think, when this town was, all the towns are doing pretty well. I don't think we use the companies in this town. We use some of them to help us out a little bit. I just don't. I brought this up 5-6 years ago. Start getting to these companies and ask them to help us out. Like Ernie Block does, got $30,000 a year. You're not asking for that, but hey, you want to sponsor that sign, and then I'll blow it wide open in the show and just tell them how well this happens, And that's a suggestion. These companies will help us if we ask them, And I just think that would help out a little bit, All right, future of the center of town. Can you tell us, David? You want to take that center of town? What's happening? Can you give us
I think there are a couple of aspects that we have to look at with regards to downtown. First of all, I think the outdoor dining experience that everyone had last year turned out to be very, very successful beyond our imagination. we did it to help the local businesses because of COVID-19, and it turned out to be a hit for everybody that was going to the restaurants or whatever, sitting around the town common, which include the closing off of Central Street near in front of the theater, which we want to do again this year, to allow for people just to walk around without worrying about car traffic, enjoy. So we need to build on that success. And I think a lot of the companies that did it last year are going to come and ask through Tony's office for a permit to open up earlier this year with regards to outdoor dining. The second is, a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we passed zoning, a downtown overlay district, to try to encourage the owners of the properties to consider really renovating their properties, adding a second or a third floor. But the density that we require in the zoning may still be too low for them to build enough units to make it profitable for them. So in other words, we have a zoning, I think, of 20, I think it's 28
around 20
or something like that.
I think it's less
right?
than that. I think it's right around 17 or 20, and there's a little bit of a bonus.
And it's we're not getting any takers. I think people have asked. I think everyone's waiting for that first major project to come through, and they say, "Wow, if Johnny Jones can do it, Mary Smith was. I'm going to jump in too." We don't know, but that hasn't happened. It's been a couple of years. So, do we want to rethink and up the density, but still protect the parking? Because there are ways that the town can do it to ensure that parking is included in any proposal. So I think we have to think about that. And I don't think any of us are advocating for these big wholesale apartment complexes, but it's part of renovating an entire building for businesses on the first floor and residents on the second, third, and fourth floor. But at what point will it be profitable for the owners of these buildings to say, now I can do something?
Yeah, people get scared about density, and I'll give you an example. Where currently the downtown zoning allows, I think it's either 17 or 20, it's called units per acre. So everyone thinks, oh my God, that's a lot. The building where all of Adi's is, that technical density is over 40 units per acre. Now there's not 40 units there's not an acre of land. So you need to look at that and say, well, does anyone really have a problem with that building? It's a restaurant on the ground floor and 2 floors of apartments, but people are going to want to fit a reasonable amount of units on their property. So if you take the building where the Mug and Muffin is, that's actually a pretty long building there. That building is an older building. It would be ripe for redevelopment, but if you can put 8 apartments up there, nobody's going to want to build it and only put 4. Why wouldn't you want to fit the space that you want to fit? Same thing with retail space on the ground floor. You ultimately want that flexible so you decide how big the stores are, but I think a tweak to that ordinance to just change that density number, and we maintain, as David said, control over the parking. But remember, we have a downtown where we don't have a parking problem. We're very unique in that we're a town that we have more than enough parking. It never fills up. That we have 3 large lots downtown plus a ton of on-street parking is an absolute blessing for us.
Well, Tony, why is that happening? Why do people always complain about they just don't want to take a like to walk? Is that why?
Yeah, people like to park in front of a store, and I understand that. In a perfect world, you'll park right in front of your store, but our parking lots are never completely full. Other than Norwood Day, even if the theater has a sellout show, there's still always going to be room in the Babels lot. So that gives us the ability to have a downtown. And if you talk to some businesses downtown, you talk to Lewis's, for instance, they'll tell you people will find a way to get to their restaurant.
Right.
It's all about what we're using downtown for. Now, I might think, gee, I'm getting my hair done downtown. Now, you go to Supercuts, maybe I go downtown to get my hair done, and I just kind of want to park right in front of there and go in and get my hair done and leave. And that's one type of user of downtown. Maybe I run into the hardware store, but some people are going to say, hey, I want to park because I want to go take a look at Charles River running, and then I want to go have a cup of coffee at Perks, and then I'm going to go have some drinks at Limey's, and then I'm going to go have dinner at Lewis's, and then I'm going to have a second dinner at the OCC, and then I'm going to go and have ice cream at Daddy's Dairy, and they don't mind just parking and spending the time downtown. So it's about what are we designing our downtown for? A quick stop into a shop, or for people to come down and have sort of a whole experience?
Okay. David, anything to add to that?
Norwood is very fortunate that if you look at our surrounding towns, we truly have a downtown. And it's a very focused downtown where people can come in and do a lot of different things. unique in many ways if you look at other area towns, and it's not a put down of, Canton or Dedham or Westwood. It's just the geography that each town has, and we're very fortunate that the design of our town has a core at downtown. And people, when we talked about the zoning a couple of years ago, people were talking in favor of it because they said, I would love to be able to have something on the third floor in downtown overlooking the wonderful common or other areas, and then at night just walk out, go down the street, go out to dinner, have a couple drinks, or go to the theater. The rec hall's right around the corner. Lots of things to do for anyone that wants to take a little bit of a walk. So again, I'm not advocating for a certain density number. I just think we need to talk about it more to say, we need to better entice the owners to say, what's it going to take for you to do it? Hopefully we can come to a higher number that the town would be willing to live with and say, okay, this is what we needed. Because we don't have a lot of vacancies downtown.
We don't.
No,
Okay.
we don't. We really don't.
Well,
If you drive down and look at both sides, I think at some point we probably had a higher number than we would have envisioned. But there have been other people that have been coming in and backfilling some of these stores, and that's great. Some with different in new restaurants. I mean, look at Spot. They just moved in a juice bar place opened up right in this space. That's awesome. So it didn't even stay vacant. I mean, he just moved out, and they were right in there renovating. They had come to us before for a license, and they were granted. The old Chinese food place at the corner of Vernon.
Yeah, it's I forget the name of it because it's changed hands already. But there's that place was vacant for less than a year, and then there's a new place going in there. There's a new burrito place going in. Chefin' and Eatin' is new. Norwood, Victoria's Cafe closed, and Norwood Spice moved right in there. So there's a lot of buzz downtown, and I think this summer you're going to see it come alive even more with more outdoor dining. I mean, if you think of where Limey's is, so you have the new, it's a sort of a Japanese-Chinese restaurant, new Asian fusion restaurant. I don't know the name, it's Mizuya, I think, or something, but you have that restaurant, you have Limey's, you have Norwood Spice, you now have a burrito place, there's the pizza place. You've got a little restaurant row there. I mean, if they all put seats outside, you're now getting 5 or 6 places right in a row where you can sit and have something to eat. And
Right.
me, I'd go to each one of them in a row.
Yep.
But that's really a different downtown than it was pre-pandemic, and I think that's a good thing.
Have you guys thought about asking people like Tom Cummings Sr. what kind of a store he'd like to see down there?
No. We know what you want. You want a bar hall.
Well, I'd like to see a shoe store. I don't need any shoes.
A beer hall. You want a beer hall.
Tom, have you been to Charles River Running? Have you been to Charles River Running? Because I bought this wonderful pair of shoes at Charles River Running about 2 years ago, and I got to tell you,
great store.
They're still working. I still wear them in the gym. I wear them out all the time. They're still in great shape. So Charles River Running.
I'm just saying. I'm just asking. You may. As you run into people, hey, what kind of store would you like to see?
Well, now, Tom, I don't know if we'd have one of those pot shops downtown. I know you like those, but we don't have those coming to Norwood. It's not Colorado.
He's got to go to Colorado. He knows it. He's got to be able to go there.
God, I haven't seen too much out there of it, really. I haven't been, it's it's funny when I go out there, I said to my son, last summer, when I used to go there all the time, and I said, Tom, I said, God, these streets, they're great. I said, yeah. He said, Dad, they just did it over. I said, so where do they get all the funds? Smoking the pot. That's what he said to me. Anyways, so we don't have a lot of empty stores out there.
The key to our zoning effort is we don't want to lose the character that has made us very, very good. But certainly we could use some spruce ups in some of these buildings that, have not been done in years and years. And if zoning can help that by enticing them to put some money into it without losing the character of what we're trying to create in town, that's the right way.
Okay. Anyways, one of my pet peeves, and it has been for years, I did do several shows up there, is the farmers market. Now that's coming up. We're into March, and have you guys thought about giving it any consideration about changing the day so more people can go there and do what they're going to do and make a thing out of it? I mean, that would help tremendously, really,
So, Tom, there's a couple things with that. So it's the Friends of Norwood Center had been running the farmers market, so it's not a town program. The town doesn't own or manage it, and they had to hold off last year for a couple of reasons. One, costs them over $10,000 a year to do it. So there's a big cost to them to do it. And many of the merchants downtown, they were suffering with COVID and still are, so they were really focusing on what they could just do for their businesses. The idea was to have the farmers market, see if it could draw more traffic downtown. And I like the farmers market. I wish it, I hope it would at some point come back. The challenge in terms of moving the day is that the vendors want to go where they know they're going to sell the most.
I know.
So it's tough to go to a farm and say, hey, we've got this new farmers market starting in Norwood. We want you here on a Saturday because we like it on a Saturday. And they're going to go to an established site on a Saturday. So it's really tough to build that up. A solution might be to try to get a couple of towns to do a regional one where it rotates on a Saturday. So maybe it's here once a month. But it's tough because whoever has a good one going and they have a Saturday in their town and they got it established and they've spent a lot of time on it, they're not going to want to change it. The Tuesday hours weren't the best in the world, but it's tough to get them here on a Saturday where they're going to want to go to a bigger, more established market. I used to live in northern Vermont. Burlington, Vermont has like the best farmers market in the world. And all these towns around there would always try to do a farmers market, but it was good luck trying to do it on a Saturday because nobody was ever going to go to your market. They were going to go to the big one in Burlington. So it's tough. We all want a little farmers market close downtown, but it's tough to make it happen. Although I will say you can go to, we have a number of grocery stores in town. We have the big chains for grocery stores, but we have a number of smaller grocery stores that are fantastic all throughout town and downtown that you can also go to.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I mean, I've been looking at that farmer's market house for 100 years here, and it doesn't work on Tuesday. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Get it, okay? My involvement with it, Tony, for years has been with the people who are involved in it, and they did not want to change it. They did not want to change it, okay? That was it. And we got to get away from that. You got to be open to change. And if you had it on Saturday and you put some good music down in this place, we go crazy. People will go. How can you go to the farmer's market? You can now, coming up, because a lot of people are staying at home and not going to town or whatever. You get off the train at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock or whatever, you can't go to farmer's market. It's just not working. And if something doesn't work, you got to change it. That's just my push, and I hope it happens. I really do, because
so do I.
It would help a lot. It really would. Give us another good day. You guys will. We talked about that. I called an eyesore on Pleasant Street down near the asphalt plant. I just want to make sure I get it on the network because the person asked me to, and. You'll have a look at it. And
Tom, it's worth talking about that. I mean, you're talking about some of the buildings that are right next to the road down on Pleasant Street. It's important to remember that that's private property, and it's not violating any building codes. So I always joke that you're a good communist. You want the town to control everything. We have sort of some building codes where we can make sure that things are safe and they're okay. But if you like your house being blue versus green, I can't really tell you not to. I agree. I think we can certainly reach out to the owners of those buildings and say, hey, if you're looking to invest, we would certainly appreciate it because it could definitely use a facelift. But it is private property, so we don't have the ability to go in and just force everyone to take an existing property that otherwise meets code look any different. Just like if I don't like your new kitchen that Jacobs did, and they did a great job 25 years ago, the town can't go in and say, nope, we don't like your kitchen looking the way it is. You need to now get tile floor or granite counters or something like that. So it's tough. They meet the code, and it's just
I understand.
Dated.
Yeah, I understand.
But we'd love to see some investment there too.
Yeah, let's see, for flooding control. We have a committee on flooding control, water control.
Not so much a committee per se, but we had a study done about 8 or 10 years ago, the Meadowbrook study, looking at what we need to do for stormwater and retention and for drainage throughout town, and we're now moving forward on some of the recommendations in that study. It's going to cost a lot of money. We at some point are going to need a fee or a tax to pay for all the different stormwater management that we want to do. But I think when we're ready to do it, it's time to have that conversation and say, look, we want to comprehensively invest in all of our storm drains in what happens in a community when there's flooding going on. So if it means we have to find the money to do it, I think it's important to do that. It's important for the future of the community, and certainly after the flood last year, I think it's a discussion worth having.
It before anything. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say, when the study was done in 2004, we're talking multiple millions of dollars. It's not $2 million. Just there are really like eight different aspects of trying to do this, and you have to do it in the right sequence because you can't do the front end and then everybody's at the bottom gets flooded. So you have to do it in the right phases, and it outlined it. But it's a multi-year project. It's a multi-millions of dollars. We took the first step by doing a $5.7 million one, but it's going to take multiple years of $5.7 million to try to get this done. And even that is not sure we're going to be able to complete it, because if it was going to cost as much as they talked about in 2004, in today's dollars, you're probably twice, if not three times that number. We could be talking over $60 million, $70 million just for doing the Meadowbrook area, which obviously is the problem child, but certainly not the only issue in town with regards to water. So it's one of those things we talked about earlier. It's great that we have these studies. We can't put them on the shelf forever. At some point, you have to take them off, dust them off, have them re-costed out, and say, okay, what can we do? Because we can't keep going through the flooding situation that occurred in June and say, oh, well, it was just a 100-year storm. Well, they're coming a little bit more often, and if there's a way to fix it without over taxing individuals, then we have to at least start it. We can always do it in phases to prevent too much at one time, but you got to take the first step, and I think we've agreed to do that.
I can remember, I think I may have mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again anyways. I used to complain about that water, oh my gracious. It was bad. When I first went down the Redwood Drive, there was no water. I didn't get water in my playroom or whatever. Then it started to happen. So finally, John Carroll says, okay, Tommy, you, me, and Mark, Public Works Administrator and Town Engineer, are going to take a ride. We're going to take a ride around that area down there. So we chatted about it, and he didn't turn off the water at all. He says, you know what, Tom? About $11 million. That's what it will cost us, okay? And so, it just scares me, David and Tony, that if we ever, God forbid, if we ever have a hurricane hit us, we could be in serious trouble. We really could.
Well, let's not think that way. So you're right, it could, but that could happen. We get an earthquake, and it's going to screw up everybody's pipes. To me, I'll look on the positive side and say that we have a plan in front of us and how we can get there. We need to tackle it and be proactive about situations like this, so that we can't keep pushing things off and say, well, my kids' generation will deal with it, because that's really not fair. And we're not looking to spend $1 gazillion because we can't overtax everybody. But these are major infrastructure issues that we don't have a choice. They have to be done, unless we want to accept that we could have tremendous amounts of damage to people's homes and businesses every so many years. If that's acceptable, okay. It isn't to me. That's all.
Okay, Another item topic I used to speak with great former town manager John Carroll, and was music on the common. How's it going, guys? How's it going, Mr. Manager?
I think it's going great. If you're sitting on the common, you can listen to the music and you can hear it as you're strolling through. It's fairly soft when you're on the common, and I don't know if some people thought it was going to be a concert on the common all the time. It's not. It's designed to be background music, so it's no longer silent. You can walk through and hear the music as you're near the speakers, but it's soft enough so that, if you're sitting on a bench, you and I can talk on a bench. We can hear the music in the background.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's not so loud that we can't communicate with each other.
And we thank you for pushing that, Tony.
Glad we got it done.
I think it's just great. One thing at a time, and it's working. Believe me. You get your streets, you got your music. Town is clean. It's really good. I'm going to bring up a sore spot here. Well, no, not a sore spot, but what's happening with our airport? Are we making? Anything happening there?
It's plugging along. There is another hangar being built, which is great news for us, because we're going to get payments on that new building. I think as we go forward, we want to look at how we can increase revenue. I know there was some folks looking at it a couple of years ago, making some recommendations. They've implemented some of them. So again, we're heading in the right direction. Nothing's ever perfect, but I think there's been a lot more
growing, David? Maybe a little bit? Growing a little bit?
I don't know.
The numbers and the business functions are growing, but I want to, I guess, if I can put everyone at ease, the airport's never going to become Logan Airport. We're never going to have giant, but people say that I hear you're bringing in big giant jets, the runway's getting extended, and they might pave another couple hundred feet of the runway, but you'll never have the big planes we fly to Florida but even if you wanted it, even if everyone in town said, yes, we want to be able to get on a jumbo jet in Norwood and fly it to Colorado, you'd have to relocate Interstate 95. I mean, it's you need $300 billion and get rid of Interstate 95 and half of Canton. Yeah. I mean, it'll never happen. We want the business to grow, but when we talk about the airport growing, it's new buildings there, additional businesses there, more of the small jets that you see. I mean, they ran a jet service to Nantucket over the summer or last summer, little things like that. So the airport can grow, but it's not going to get bigger. You're not going to have massive passenger jets. Or, somebody said that, they heard Amazon's going to bring in those big cargo jets. They'd land on 95 before they land at the Norwood Airport. But, there's a new hangar going up. We've raised some fees at the airport. There's new businesses moving in. There's another flight school that I think could come in. And I know there's talk of sort of a new restaurant and observation building maybe going in. That would be a nice addition. So it's growing, but it's never going to be... We don't ever foresee it being fundamentally different.
We don't want that, Tony. We don't.
No, we wouldn't be...
coming in at night and you won't be able to sleep and,
No, I think we want to get to a point, and we have been for a number of years now, where it's not a drain to the taxpayer because it is run independently and as a separate department, and they have the ability to generate revenue, which they've been doing, and so they're not running at a loss. And that's the right way to look at it. So it's been keeping close tabs on them over the past few years, but it is going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I just want to take a moment here to thank Brian Dunn, one of the staff members up here at the studio, for helping us out, helping Michaela, and Michaela does one hell of a job, I'll tell you. Appointing. We have a little time. Appointing new members to new boards, new committees, volunteers. I've talked to 2 officials, and I'm not going to say who they are, not too long ago, and the answer I got was, who we're going to appoint? Well, I think you have to advertise and put some information out there. If you want people to put in for these committees, okay, you have to go out and let them know that they're welcome to put in for these committees. And on top of that, when persons, after persons are appointed on their reappointment, and in the beginning, when they are first appointed, they should be interviewed by the full board on live TV, in my opinion. Okay, and that. I think that's a little better, but I think there was a motion made a few years ago, and there was some controversy on TV about whether it passed or didn't pass, and I think it did pass. And everybody who is appointed to a board should come up before the board. I can remember when Tom Riolo, I put in for the Cable Commission, and I went up before the board, and he says, Tom, do you have a police scanner? I don't know what the hell that had to do with whatever, but it was really funny. But he wanted to ask me something, and that's it came to a stop, evidently. And you should be asking these people.
We do. An example is for the Conservation Commission, when we had openings, new people came before the board. When we had for the Cultural Council, we requested and received, resumes or information. Tony's redone the talent bank form, and we encourage at most every meeting, because there are always vacancies in different boards. We've had a vacancy on the personnel board for a while. We just got notice last night, 2 zoning board members are leaving. So there's vacancies there, but fortunately we have 5 associate members, and we'll get an idea from that which 2 want to serve. So,
but then we have those associate positions opening up.
That's right. So the point is we ask at almost every meeting, even if there wasn't a vacancy, I would still want people to show boards that they're interested in. So when the time comes, we're not pleading for someone to come on board. Let's have a bench that we can go to and say, oh, well, these 3 people filled out the town form and they're willing to be on the ZBA. So let's bring them in for an interview if we find out that they're still interested. So I agree, Tom, we are bringing them in for interviews if they're new to a committee. We have no problem with that, and it's done in an open session, so anyone who's attending that meeting can hear their responses, hear the questions, whatever it is, and then they get voted.
Yeah. Anything else, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been good since the board has started doing it with ZBA members. Shortly after I got here, I started doing it with conservation members and members of the Historic Commission, where, you know, I just meet with them. I even meet with them for reappointment sometimes and just confirm that they want to be reappointed. Or are they looking to get off? And I think you get a better product out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. Is the town hall open now?
It's by appointment. You know, one of the challenges.
Still? Okay.
Yeah. So one of the challenges we have is there's still restrictions on how many people can work in an office building. In town hall is not designed to meet these kind of restrictions with that we have. It's just such a beautiful building, but it's an old building. But since last March, any service you need, we can take care of. We always recommend just give us a call and we can take care of you.
Well, I thought it was closed. I never go up there because of the elevator, but I don't use elevators, so unless I have to. But the
elevator's been fixed. The elevator works fine. We had a project over the summer to replace the elevator. It had gotten a little old at about 35 years, and it was time to replace it. So the elevator's been replaced. I'm just gonna throw around
a couple things here. Okay, Bill Plasko, no competition. Nobody running against Bill Plasko.
Correct.
God, wow, isn't that awesome? I mean, I think it is. I like to see competition. I really do. But, you know.
I think on the one hand, it's a tough year with COVID. It's tough to, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there thinking, you know, it's tough to campaign. It's tough to go out and get signatures. And people generally don't like to run when there's a single seat available. When there's 2 seats available, it usually gives you a better opportunity, better your chances of winning. But I think you're seeing it in towns around Massachusetts where there's an understandable reluctance for people to want to run for office. Given COVID, you can't go shake hands. You got to be careful about having your fundraisers and your meet and greets, and you really can't go door to door. It really makes it tough to get people involved. I think you'll see a bounce back next year when things are a little bit easier.
Yeah. David, Bill Plasko, you know, working right along with him and him with you?
He's working well, working hard. As chairman, he's had a very, very busy schedule. If people weren't satisfied, I'm sure someone would have come up and said, I'm going to run. Obviously, there wasn't, so they're satisfied with Bill's work for the town, and he's been there for a long, long time. We enjoy his experience and his knowledge, so let's move on.
Yeah. The tower up in the town hall, is that, you guys are renovating that too, right?
Yet the Carillon is being renovated right now. The bells are actually down in, I believe, Virginia being worked on. And they'll be coming in the next couple of weeks to do the painting, the steel frames for the Carillon. So
about a year and a half ago, I climbed up the top of that.
It was in tough shape. It was in tough shape.
Wow, yeah. My family from Colorado, they thought it was great. You know.
Fun fact: the Carillon is insured for $1 million.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
that's the estimated insurance value of the Carillon.
Wow.
How about the library? We have a new director.
Yep.
We do. Clayton Cheever. He was the assistant director of the library in Quincy, and he comes to us as the library director. He lives in, I believe, West Roxbury, and he's been with us about a month, and he still keeps coming in, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. And the library's open on a limited basis. Is that right?
Yep. They're doing curbside pickup, and they're open a couple hours a day.
I got to give him a call and get him. I got to chat with him. How about the hopefully Alan Slater, the chairman of the committee for the new middle school, which is going to be wow, you got your work cut out for you, I'll tell you. You really do. You know, but the new middle school, edging forward?
Even more than inching forward, feeding forward, I guess. Alan is doing a great job chairing that committee. We're beginning the design process. The next big decision point will be later this summer, later this spring, deciding whether or not it's going to be a 6 through 8 middle school or a 5 through 8 middle school. There's pluses and minuses to both, although I hope that it comes down to the idea that a 5 through 8 middle school is better for the town's long-term future. But the project is moving along, and we're still several years from the required vote for it formally, the override vote, as well as the building actually going under construction and being a new building being built. But it's important. If you haven't been to the Coakley or the South Junior High in a long time, out of all of our buildings, it is the most aged and most in need of renovation. I don't think there's been a building in the last 20 years in the town that has needed it more than the middle school. That is a poorly built, tired building that's just doesn't have a place in the modern world.
Yeah. David?
And I think at the end of the day, we will get a new middle school. Townspeople should feel very proud that the fact that, within a 10-year span, we will have built a new high school and a new middle school. So we try to take care of our buildings. Hopefully we don't let them get to that point down the road. But that's why you have long-term plans and you work towards it. So I think this will be great for everybody because, when people want to move into town, not that we're having any trouble with anybody moving into town, but people do look at the school system and,
absolutely.
It's not just test results, but are they in an environment where they can actually learn? And I think we're proving that by stepping forward and building it, that's what we want for any kid that moves into town.
Yeah, by the way, that Nahan Street, when you come out of Avalon Bay, I used to bug Mark on that. Oh, I'll never work. Boy, I'll tell you, what a great job in that. That's great. I mean, I know the traffic isn't up where it is going to be, but I go through there all the time, and it's it's just it really is working well. Tony or David, facilities management department. We haven't got into that. Is that starting to do okay?
It started to work about a week after we started it. It's actually been going great. I'll give you an example of that. One of the big benefits of the facilities department is we're able to handle small size projects in-house and maybe only contract out a specialty here or there. We had a couple of architecture estimates. We had to redo the kitchen at the fire department. So this is a big commercial size kitchen. It serves the fire department. And we budgeted about $400,000 for it. Well, I think it was actually $450,000 town meeting approved last year. We believe that project is going to come in at less than half we budgeted.
Really?
Yeah, wow. Because facilities is doing the bulk of the core work themselves. They're working with the vendors to get the equipment in, to place the equipment, to do the electrical work. I mean, that project's been cut in half. There's a fire alarm panel that we had to replace at the fire station, and that project too, it was about a $50,000 project, is going to come in for just under half of the cost of that.
That's crazy, isn't it?
The facilities department, working with a grant we received from the state and the energy manager position that we share with the town of Sharon, has been installing LED lights in a lot of buildings, and we're seeing in some of the buildings, you're seeing a 10 to 20% energy savings already year over year in some of the buildings where we've done it, and we're doing another round of exterior LED lights. So what you'll see is buildings like the public safety building and the library, their electric bill is basically going to go down probably 10 to 20% this year just from work the facilities department did that was almost exclusively grant funded. I think all the LED work we'll have done in a year or two was maybe 20% funded by the town and the rest funded by a grant, all handled by the facilities department. So they've been knocking it out of the park.
Kevin?
I love the facilities department. I was glad to be on the committee that made the recommendation. So they've done great. I don't think anyone envisioned that it would run this smoothly right out of the gate, but kudos to Tony and the superintendent of schools, Dave Thompson. They have a great working relationship. So when they got everybody together, it wasn't an issue, and we've been moving at a fast pace.
Paul Vicardi
done an incredible job. I
met
with him for about an hour today. We were going over a few things, and he's
you met with him today? Okay,
yeah,
good.
He and Chris Full and their team, they have knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, that's great. I just love his wife, Carol. Oh God,
Carolyn's the best.
She's a good friend of mine. Her boys played ball for me a few years ago, and and Tommy. Another place I just I'm using is the bank. Okay, Dedham Bank, Dedham Savings Bank, and for one of my former ball players is leading that now. And. It's just great. It really is. I see these youngsters who grow up and thrive. You guys have something you want to? Tommy Benson, by the way, he's the manager up at that Dedham Savings. He played ball for me. When he was 10 years old.
And he credits his success to his coach.
Oh God, he's. Anyways, you guys have something you want? David, you have something? Let's see. We have. Well, we got a few minutes, not much, but you got something you want to? bring up at this point?
No, you've covered everything that was on my mind, Tom.
Dedham Savings, great facility.
Yeah.
And
great local institution. Norwood Bank, another great local institution.
Yeah, any businesses you wanna bring up or anything like that? There,
all of them.
Give them a plug. Why not?
All of them. We have a lot of great businesses in town. A lot of great restaurants. I had ice cream from a local restaurant today. I had lunch at a local restaurant today. I got my coffee from someplace in town today. And when we're done here, Tom, I'm going to pick up dinner at a restaurant in town too. So
great.
Shop local.
That's great. The restaurants are going to do good. They're going to do well this year.
I think this summer is going to be good for a lot of them.
Is it going to be a lot of work for you guys?
It's really not that much
help
work.
Them out a little bit, maybe.
It's really not that much work for us to get it set up. Once we get it set up, it's really just maintaining it. It's that initial setup. It's not for the dollars we invested in doing everything we did last year downtown helping our restaurants. It's the smallest investment for the biggest gain we've probably ever had.
Okay, don't forget that beer hall. I know you're always thinking about it. In the middle of town would be great. Oh wow!
If Castle Island or Percival opened a tap room downtown, I think it'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Anything?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Michaela and I want to thank you for watching our program. Our sponsor, Joan and Joe Jacobs. God, they're just great people, still helping out. Our guests, David and Tony. Trip to Colorado coming up. That tells me we are getting a handle on this very bad disease, this very bad virus we've had. Really, we are getting a handle on it. Things are gonna get better. See you on Thursday, March 25th at 5 o'clock. Please keep it up there, please. It's not over. It is not over. Remember that. Distancing, you still got to keep your spread. You see how we're spread out here at the studio. And I want to thank Michaela, and we'll see you next time as I take a trip out west. Thank you, and goodbye.